great breathing exercise that applies to so many people in so many different ways is to learn, one, how to breathe through our nose exclusively, doing our diaphragmatic breathing, and then two, learning how to expand our rib cage in all three dimensions, laterally, forward, backwards, up and down. So when we are breathing, our diaphragm muscle is what pulls air in. So it sits at the bottom of our rib cage and it separates our heart and lungs from the rest of our vital organs. And it sits as a dome, and as it contracts, it actually pushes down, and that creates negative pressure in the lungs, which pulls air in. And as we press down on our internal organs, the rest of the stuff that's in our belly, that stuff expands out. So when we breathe through our nose, that stimulates our diaphragm to activate and properly diaphragmatic breathe, so we get to the deepest part of our lungs. When we start our breathing exercises, we want to first just take a few breaths slowly in and out through our nose. And we can monitor, is our chest rising or is our belly rising, by putting a hand on each of them. And if we're breathing into our chest and this hand is rising up and down, then we're not quite engaging that diaphragm muscle as much as we want to. We want the belly hand to be moving up and down. So we normally will teach it in lying down because that's the easiest way to do it. So in lying down, with knees bent just for relaxation or whatever position is comfortable for you, head relaxed, hand on the chest, hand on the belly, and you're just going to breathe through your nose and observe, is it your chest moving or is it your belly moving? We want our belly to be moving. Now I also want to exhale through my nose because I want to get good control over my nasal breathing. So that's the first stage. After I do a few breaths of that, I want to then work on expanding my rib cage laterally. So I'm going to make this position with both hands, and I'm going to put my thumb and my pinky finger against the side of my rib cage, and I'm using those to monitor. First, I'm going to breathe into my belly as I inhale, and then I'm going to expand my rib cage laterally, so I should feel that with my fingers. After I do a few breaths like that, then my next stage is building off of that, belly, lateral, and then into the chest. So I'm going to move one hand to my chest. I can still keep one hand on the side of my rib cage and one hand on my chest now. And I should breathe into my belly, lateral ribs, front of the sternum. After I do 3 to 5 breaths like that, the last part I want to work on is breathing into the lower part of my rib cage in the back, and that's going to be pressing down into the table. Harder to do and harder to see when we're on the table, but the idea is going to expand my ribs and my lung capacity in all three dimensions here. So I take my breath through my nose, inflating my belly slightly, then laterally into my ribs, forward into my chest, and then in my low back and my lower rib cage down into the table. Now that full volume that I can take when I'm laying down is my reference breath volume. That is my full capacity of my breathing. And I should be able to attain 90% of that breathing volume in any position that I do, anytime during the day. Even if I'm sitting in a bad position, if I'm slumped, I should still be able to get into that full 90% of that breath that I took, because that means that I'm expanding my rib cage in all the right directions. If I'm doing a push-up position, a pull-up position, a overhead squat position, a deadlift, whatever, it doesn't matter what position I'm in. If it's a work position, if it's a rest position, I should be able to get 90% of that volume. And if I can do that, that means that I own that position. When you don't own a position, when you struggle with a position, the first composition that happens is your breathing. So if we can get our breathing back on track, that's going to calm the rest of the nervous system and help everything to function a lot more efficiently. So we can use this breathing technique, one, as a relaxation method that we can just kind of calm our nervous system at the end of the day or after something stressful, or we just want to do a little meditation or some calming down. And we can use it as a gauge of how am I tolerating the position that I'm getting into. If I get into a squat position and I can't get 90% of this breath that I just got when I was laying down, that means I don't own that position. I'm struggling with that. I need to work on my breath work in that position, because that will help calm our nervous system, get more mobility throughout our spine, and help us to be more efficient with our movements. So try that. Ask any questions that you have about it. It takes some practice. It's a new technique for a lot of people, but you will improve your breathing, and that will improve your movement and your comfort during all those movements.